Hey guys, it's Alyssa from Planet Alyssa, and I am here with the third and final installment of my FBA basics videos. And in this video, I just want to cover all the things that I didn't really touch on in the first two videos and just important things to keep in mind. And I'm going to start with talking about pricing on Amazon because first of all, it's a lot different than I think if you're used to doing eBay or used to doing Etsy or selling anywhere else, really. Amazon is its own separate thing. And I think the first thing to keep in mind with pricing is you have to understand Amazon buyers, who are very different than eBay buyers. Where eBay is pretty much what I would think of as like the bargain basement of the internet. It's like sort of like an internet garage sale. People are going on eBay often to get deals. They're not going on eBay to pay top dollar. Now there are exceptions. If something's exceedingly rare and valuable, the price will get driven up on eBay. But for most of the stuff you're going to sell on eBay, people are looking to get a particular item. They want to get a discount on it, and that's why they go to eBay. Amazon shoppers are not bargain hunters. In fact, they routinely pay a lot more for items than you would pay to buy them at the store, which is how people are able to make a living going to stores, buying stuff, selling it on Amazon. Why would people do this? Well, there are a number of reasons, and it depends on the mindset. Like, I probably would not do that, but that's me. I'm kind of a thrifty kind of person, and I don't mind going to a store and looking for bargains and waiting till something goes on sale. Amazon shoppers tend to be most interested in convenience. They like the convenience. They want to just go online, buy something. They don't want to have to waste time going to a store. They don't want to have to waste time hunting for something. Or maybe they even live in an area where it's just not feasible that they can go out to stores. If they live out in the middle of nowhere, you know, you might have to drive an hour to get to a store, and then they might not have what you want, and then you've wasted all this time and gas. When you look at it that way, it might actually be cheaper to pay more money for something on Amazon. Or maybe the opposite, someone who lives in the middle of nowhere. If you live in a city, like an urban area, it might actually be tough to find products. It sounds kind of weird, but I mean, there are a lot of people that live in Manhattan, and it's not easy to find stuff. I mean, there's no Targets in Manhattan, and to get to one, you know, you're gonna have to take a train or a bus, and if you're buying something that's bulky or that you don't want to have to carry back with you, it's a pain. Plus there's, you know, the expense and the time to consider. So why do people pay more stuff on Amazon than you can buy in the store? Well, maybe they can't buy it in the store, or maybe they just don't want to be bothered. So that's something really to keep in mind with Amazon, is that the mindset of the buyer is very different than the mindset of the buyer on eBay. Now, when we're talking about pricing on Amazon, pricing is pretty fluid on Amazon. And by that I mean it'll go up and it'll go down. And, you know, what something is selling for one day may not be what it's selling for the next. There is a free tool called Camel. I think there are other tools as well where you can kind of track price history for different Amazon items over time. And so if you're unsure about an item, I would recommend using that tool just to see the price fluctuations. What you will see at Christmas time, the fourth quarter, is that prices on not all toys, but toys that are very desirable will go crazy high, and you'll see a peak probably like end of November, early December, when stuff is just really going for crazy amounts of money because somebody needs to get something for their kid. They've gone to every store around them, they can't find it, they're desperate, they're willing to pay like 3 times the asking price for it and buy it on Amazon. So you're going to see certain times when prices are going to get crazy high. So price is very fluid on Amazon. And by fluid, I mean it goes up and it also goes down. It's something to keep in mind, but also to keep in mind when you're looking at price is sales rank on Amazon. Every item that sells on Amazon has a sales rank within the main category that it's part of. And sales rank numbers vary greatly from category to category. So what might be good as a book, you know, anything under $1 million for a book is pretty good. It's going to sell fast. Under $1 million in garden or whatever, not that good. So it depends on the categories. There is information, I think, out there on sales ranks, and you can just kind of look at stuff. When we talk about sales rank, what's a good sales rank in one category might not be a good sales rank in another. Toys is a pretty popular category. I would say anything under 100,000 sales rank in toys is going to sell pretty fast. It's a quick moving item if the price is right. If the price isn't right, just wait until the fourth quarter and see if the price goes up, because it might. Then again, it might not. toys, one thing to keep in mind with toys is stuff goes in and out of fashion. The character that was really hot last year, kids might not care about anymore. And you'll find all these things on closeout. I mean, right now, I think everywhere I look, I see Angry Bird stuff on closeout, and I don't think any kids really care about the Angry Birds anymore. But for a while there, they were really popular, and you could make money selling Angry Bird stuff, and now it's kind of become tough to do. But when I made my first FBA video and I showed you listing an item, somebody asked about pricing. I had priced actually my item, I think the same as what the lowest FBA offer was, or maybe even a little bit higher than the lowest FBA offer. And they were surprised. They said, don't you want to price it even like a penny or two lower and get a quicker sale? It doesn't matter. You don't need to do that. You're gonna sell stuff anyway, regardless. Amazon shoppers aren't really worried about pennies. Pennies also don't matter for you getting the buy box, which means that if Amazon's not in stock on an item, when somebody looks at it and you're in stock new and they click buy this item or whatever, whatever it says, that's the buy box, it will be your item that sells. And you don't need to be the lowest price seller to get the buy box. Amazon has some sort of algorithm figured out for how someone winds up in the buy box. You do have to have good, seller metrics, good ratings and stuff, although most FBA sellers do. So I don't know, and it'll change. Who has the buy box will change from day to day, and their prices may not change. It's just Amazon's weird way of doing things. If you're priced competitively, you're going to wind up with the buy box sometimes, and sometimes you're not. But as I did say in that first video, I do use repricing software. I do sell a lot of things. I have a lot of things listed. To me, it's not worth it to keep track of prices all the time on items. I can pay $16 a month and have this software that does it for me. And with repricing software, it will, raise the price or lower it depending on how the market's going. I set my minimum so that I'm not losing money on the item and that I'm making money on it, and then I just let the software do its thing. Something really important to keep in mind with Amazon is that you are not competing with merchant fulfilled sellers. They are not your competition at all. Routinely, I will sell books that merchant fulfilled sellers are selling for a penny, and I'll sell them for, $10, $15, $20. Amazon shoppers don't want to deal with merchant fulfilled sellers. They've either had problems in the past, they know they're gonna have to pay for shipping and they hate paying for shipping. They know it might take forever and a day for something to get shipped to them, especially if they're a Prime customer and they want their item lightning fast. They don't want to deal with a merchant fulfilled seller. So don't look at those prices because they don't matter. They really don't. If it's something where nobody's in stock on it at FBA, it might give you an idea of selling price, but know that whatever someone's selling it for merchant fulfilled, you're always going to sell it for more as an FBA seller. So I know I'm rambling a lot about pricing, but it's confusing and it's going to take some time to get used to. Amazon will send you emails periodically too about pricing. They'll say, you're not the lowest price seller or lower selling price opportunities or something like that. You can ignore those emails because that's just Amazon suggestions, but it doesn't really concern you. It doesn't really have to do with realistic things. Don't worry about that. Do your thing. The item will sell. Oh, and one more thing about pricing. As I was saying, you don't have to be the lowest price seller on Amazon. And I would advise against being the lowest price seller because here's what happens. A lot of sellers don't know what they're doing. So they feel like they have to be the lowest price seller. And it doesn't, take a rocket scientist to figure out that if you're, trying to be the lowest price seller and they're trying to be the lowest price seller and that guy over here is trying to be the lowest price seller, the price is going to just keep dropping on an item until you guys, are priced so low that you're not going to make any money on it. And some people even do this with their repricing software, which is stupid because you have this software that can automatically reprice things competitively, but they will have the settings set so that they have to be the lowest price seller, and that's a bad idea. So it's a good idea not to keep doing that and repricing your items so that you're the lowest price seller. It doesn't seem to make items sell quicker, but it does mean that you will have to take a cut, that you will take less profits on your item and lose money. So it doesn't benefit you at all to keep undercutting other sellers on Amazon. Now, as you're figuring out pricing, you have to understand your costs too. And I would recommend to any new seller that you read through the whole Amazon seller handbook, whatever they call it. Familiarize yourself with all the fees, all the ways that Amazon charges you money, and it is very complicated and confusing, but read it again. But I'm not going to get into the specifics here because I think I did that with one of my Etsy videos, and like 2 weeks later Etsy changed the way they're doing things. So Amazon can at any time change the way they're doing fees. I know they just randomly just stopped having third-party ads on the site, so who knows what they're going to do next. What you got to keep in mind is, first of all, if you're a pro seller, if you're not a pro seller yet, you're going to pay $1 per item on top of any normal fees that you pay on the item. Once you're selling at least 40 items a month, which sounds like a lot, but really on Amazon it's very easy to sell 40 items a month as you get going with it. Then you're going to want to upgrade to a pro seller account, and pro seller account costs $40 a month. So that's why, you know, it just makes sense to upgrade once you're selling that much. And then you don't pay that $1 per item fee. So just like with eBay or Etsy or something like that, there is a percentage fee based on the percentage, the selling price percentage. But then there are other fees on Amazon, and if you look through the Amazon handbook, you'll see that some of the fees are tied to the size of the item, because Amazon is shipping the item and storing it for you. The bigger and heavier an item is, the more fees are going to be involved with it. And so one thing you have to keep in mind is oversized fees, because they can get expensive. You know, storing individual items, it really doesn't cost much at all. Those fees are pretty low. But oversized storage fees can get high. So you've got to be careful with oversized items, and oversized items are not all that big in terms of Amazon. It depends on the shape. You know, if something's really cube shaped, it's going to become oversized a lot quicker than if something's kind of like a long shape. Familiarize yourself with the oversized fees. If you use an app like Profit Bandit, when you're out looking for items, it will tell you if an item is oversized, and it'll calculate that into your fees. Now, I talked about storage fees. There is something called long-term storage fees. It used to be over a year, now it's over 6 months. But here's one thing to keep in mind with that people tend to not realize or forget. Long-term storage fees apply to multiple items. So especially if you're doing a lot of thrifting, you're probably going to be sending in a lot of individual items. You might just have one of a particular game or puzzle or book. You're probably not going to have 20 copies of that book or game or whatever. So if you just have one item there, there's no long-term storage fees. You're allowed to keep one of each your SKUs, your merchant SKUs, in stock at Amazon at any time. There's no long-term storage fees if you just have a single item. But once you get into multiple items, then you're going to get hit with long-term storage fees if you have multiple items that are there more than 6 months. Now all you have to do is have Amazon send the items back to you so you don't get charged the fee, and they'll send you like 20 million reminders that, you know, the long-term storage fee is coming up. So if you miss that, that's your own fault. Yeah, have those items sent back to you. It costs 50 cents a piece to have the item shipped back to you, so it's not a huge expense. And then you have the item, you can hang on to it, wait till it sells, ship it in. The alternate thing is to put, you know, something on clearance and try and sell it out real quick to avoid getting the fees and having to pay to have it shipped back to you and having to store it. It depends on your preference and if you think that putting it on clearance is going to make it sell. Now, as we're talking about fees, one you shouldn't forget about is the inbound shipping fees. So in my previous video, I covered shipping items to Amazon, and it costs money, as you can see, to ship stuff to Amazon, but they do give you a discounted rate, so it costs a lot less than if you were trying to just ship it yourself. Using Amazon's discount, you do get some pretty good deals. It's hard to tell when you first start, like, how much your fees are going to be, but you can kind of roughly calculate it. And again, if you use an app like Profit Bandit, it'll allow you to, you know, it has the weight of the item in the app, because that's information from Amazon's catalog, and then it'll, you know, calculate based upon the weight how much it's going to cost you to ship into Amazon. But consider those shipping fees, as well as Amazon fees, as well as any oversized fees depending on the size of the item. There's a lot of fees to keep in mind. So that's why if you buy something for $10, you really, you gotta sell it for more than $20 on Amazon to turn a profit. So that's something to keep in mind when you're sourcing for Amazon. It's not whether you can sell something for, you know, more than you bought it for, it's for a decent amount more than you bought it for. And so that's why you really need to look for lower price items or items that are just selling for a lot more than their retail price. So if you're just starting out on Amazon FBA, you're used to doing eBay, You can find a lot of stuff at garage sales and thrift stores, rummage sales, you know, auctions, whatever, wherever you go, that you can sell on Amazon and do pretty well with. There's a limit to how much you could do that way. I mean, there's only so much inventory that you can find that way. And if you want to scale up your business, you're going to have to probably expand where you're buying stuff from, whether it's doing online arbitrage or retail arbitrage, or purchasing stuff like at discount or closeout stores. And all of those are, you know, legitimate ways to grow your Amazon business, and it really depends on what you prefer. But you will find, I mean, if you're used to shopping in Goodwill, you're going to find in stores that there are clearance deals where you can get stuff pretty much as cheap as you can get it in Goodwill, sometimes cheaper. Look for clearance deals if you're used to doing thrift stores and, you know, garage sales and stuff like that. That's one way to keep the price point still pretty low and your ROI pretty high. Yeah, and discount stores too are, you know, great sources of inventory. And you're just going to have to look around in your area, find out what works for you. Try different stores at different times, different sections of the store. It's crazy to go through and like try to scan every item in the store. But when you're first starting out, you're gonna wanna like scan a lot of stuff, look at a lot of different stuff, and, you know, find out what works for you. You might have to take some chances. If you're using a phone app like Profit Bandit or another app, or even the Amazon seller app, you can pretty much see if you're going to be able to make money on an item based on what it's selling for on Amazon and what the sales rank is on the item, what the price history is, using camel. So you don't have to take too many gambles, I would think. I'm trying to think of what else I forgot to tell you that I should tell you. One thing to keep in mind is Amazon makes it very clear what the condition of different items is. Whereas you might be able to sell something on eBay as new, even if the package is damaged in some way. You cannot do that on Amazon. You would have to select like new, even if an item is brand new, but, you know, the package is just a little chewed up or something. Select like new, and then the condition note explain it's a brand new item, but, you know, the packaging is crushed or torn or whatever it is. Because if you're selling an item that is beat up like that as new, it is a violation of Amazon's terms of service. So keep that in mind. The one thing I would say with Amazon, and I think this is actually true with like eBay and Etsy too, once you get something listed and it's for sale on Amazon, you have to be focused on the next thing. You know, you gotta let that, you know, do its thing, it'll sell, whatever, but don't keep obsessing about that. You have to move on to the next item, get more stuff, because especially with Amazon, your inventory is gonna get depleted pretty quickly. So you gotta keep feeding the beast, as they say. You gotta keep replenishing your inventory. Oh, and one more thing that I did think of. In addition to you being not allowed to sell in certain categories on Amazon, like clothing or automotive products or whatever, or, you know, if you're not ungated, like the health and beauty items. In addition to that, there will be specific items that, for whatever reason, the manufacturer has prohibited third-party sellers from selling on Amazon. And if that's the case, there's nothing you can do. You can't sell the item on Amazon. If that's the case, you know, you can try and sell something on eBay, or you can return it to the store if you bought it at like a retail store or something. That's something worth keeping in mind. And one way you can see that when you're in a store is to use the Amazon seller app. I don't think Profit Bandit shows this for whatever reason, but the Amazon seller app, I know you can look up an item, what selling restrictions there are, or if you're eligible to sell an item. I forgot how it words it, but it does take a little bit longer to look up an item using the Amazon seller app as opposed to using something like Profit Bandit. But if you're unsure of an item, that's a good tool to use. Oh, and speaking of restrictions, there are hazmat restrictions as far as shipping stuff to Amazon warehouses. It usually concerns material that, for whatever reason, is hazmat. It could be the batteries that are in something. A lot of times, like liquid items of one sort or another are considered hazmat, and you can't ship to the Amazon warehouse, so you can't really sell at FBA. You can still sell those items yourself and merchant fulfill the orders, but you're not allowed to ship them into Amazon. And some of the stuff that gets marked as hazmat really isn't hazmat, but it's hard to get those restrictions listed once Amazon has determined that an item is a hazmat item, and sometimes I don't know how they determine things. Now, some stuff will be under hazmat review if it's a new item that's been added. and you'll have to check back and see if that review has been lifted. A lot of times it will be, and then you can send an item into Amazon. Yeah, I'm probably leaving out like so much stuff that I should be telling you about Amazon. It's tough to like think of it on the fly. So if you do have a question about Amazon, or there's something that I didn't cover that you're thinking like, I don't understand this at all, you know, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll try to answer it or address it in some way. Those are just some pointers and tips, and you know, this combined with the first two videos, I think gives you a pretty good idea of how Amazon works and how you can start selling on Amazon.